Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to another edition of Africa Discourse. To our Muslim brothers and sisters out there. Yeah, happy Eid al-Fitr. We've not forgotten about that. Coincided, how will I put it now, positively. Yesterday was like, the Workers' Day, talking about the celebration of the workforce. We'll just bring it forth today. I mean, celebration of Muslim brothers and sisters. Happy Eid al-Fitr to all of you. Okay, so I am Wilson Marshall. Over 414 million persons are in Africa's workforce. The number quite large. If you go from the northern part of Africa to the southern part of Africa, extend the journey from the east to west, ask this question to each and every worker in Africa: are you really happy working here in this continent? Whether public, private, organization, 80% of the answers may just be similar. Not to the positive dimension. You get to a kind of complaint or the other. And the question now is, why is it so in this continent? With me here in the studio, I have Barracudas in the labor force. Yes, TUC, NLC. I'm so fortunate to have both of them here with me in the studio. Is there once a general, always a general? Join me to welcome Bashir Kadri, one time, always, and forever also remaining a workforce in the NLC. I appreciate your comments, sir. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Wilson. It's my pleasure being here.
And of course, Joe Aligbe. He's been there in the TUC, always there. Also, whether you're there or not now, you've been there before, you are still there in the spirit. Yes, Joe, welcome, sir. I appreciate your coming.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah. So, I'm just like, incorporating with them because I'm a worker also, part of African workforce. And I'm going to throw the first question at you, sir. Whenever I get to hear Happy Workers' Day, what comes to your mind?
Well, let me thank you first for putting the workers in your agenda today. And also considering that you also agree that you're a member of the workforce in the world. What gives me pleasure is that the day Nigeria got approval to recognize May 1st, that was about 1980, or thereabout, during Shehu Shagari era. That was the first time we had the May Day in Nigeria. So when I remember that, I have a strong feeling that Nigeria also recognized that the workers are the reason why our country is still driving. Apart from God's benevolence and gifts, the next people we should appreciate is in the workers of Nigeria. And so it also gives me a very strong feeling that hopes are not lost, because the working people are the creator of the world. So if you decide not to recognize them, you simply say that the world creator should excuse the country. And of course, you know what that means. And it also gives me joy that opportunity for May Day is for us to look at our yesterday, analyze our today, and see how we can make a better tomorrow. Because men without history are simply as good as dead. So May Day is a good one, that we have opportunity of reflecting very critically on both the welfare of workers and the welfare of our country. I think these are the things that gladdens my heart, that the day was choosing to allow us ventilate. And of course, share thoughts, if you like, crystallize and analyze, both introspectively and the employer's position in our wealth, in our future.
All right. Comrade Joe, whenever I get to hear that clause or phrase, Happy Workers' Day, he gave us an antecedent of how Nigeria was incorporated into celebration of the Workers' Day. What crosses your mind at first? You get to hear, Comrade Joe, Happy Workers' Day.
Let me quickly join him in appreciating the fact that you have been able to put the Workers' Day forefront, particularly in this your program. What comes to mind when you talk about Happy Workers' Day? Two things come to mind: the positive and the negative. The positive, the freedom, those who fought for that day, those who made sacrifice for that day, particularly the origin at the Haymarket Square in the United States, where people fought and sacrificed their lives to ensure that we have 8-hour working hours in a day. Before that day, it was 16 hours, sometimes 18 hours, sometimes 24 hours, working non-stop. And you don't have a voice until that time when some workers came together and said, no, we cannot accept this. And of course, because it was the word of the capitalists, the word of those who were slave drivers, if I may use the word at that time. So that's the negative aspect of it. Even here in Nigeria, particularly during the Corona era, of course, you know, power market model is popular amongst us, particularly in the labor cycle. You remember the incidents in Burutu, the incidents in Enugu, and all that, where Nigerian workers were brutally murdered. They fought to ensure that we have freedom from forced labor, freedom from discrimination, and all that. Then the positive aspect of it is that, you know, despite all this, despite the fighting, despite the struggle to give us this day, to give us this freedom that we are enjoying now, when you'll be talking about collective bargaining, you'll be talking about freedom from this, freedom from that, which of course we'll look at later. Are we where we are? Are we where we're supposed to be? Obviously not. And also, so when you say Happy Workers' Day, what comes to mind that, oh, well, thank God that the workers have a right and have a voice. But that voice, that freedom, that was earned, that was purchased for us, if you like to use that word, by men and women who sacrificed their lives. That dreams, are we there? Obviously not. So
that is the next question I'm coming to, but it just took a kind of a shot at it. I will come back to you, comrade. The dreams, the visions and goals of the founding fathers, the men, the women, the youths that stood to chest all the afflictions just for workers to have a say, for workers to be comfortable, for workers to have rights. Those dreams, visions, and goals, are they still obtainable right now in this continent? I want to drag it down to Nigeria.
Well, if you ask me very clearly, challenges are expounding on a daily basis. And of course, the reason for this expansion, apart from the fact that there are economic realities that are becoming more obvious, is that the capitalists have not stopped pursuing their agenda. They have not. They have not. And they will continue. They will continue. It is for us as the working people to begin to re-strategize on how to approach, because the destiny of the average worker is still hanging in the balance. The reasons that why those things were put on and why that struggle was fierce at that time in the Hay and 1886 are still not gone. What you only have is the modernization of the slave labor. Because you just imagine that the worker must go to the street to contest before anybody listens to him. Imagine that somebody who's supposed to be who is the word creator, nobody care about his well-being. It's like you use the machine until the machine stops running, and you dump it and buy a new machine. That's what happens. It's across. Governors don't bother pay salaries of workers. They see it as secondary. It's not primary. And the governor told us on recent TV that he was not elected as governor of worker salary. The governor said so.
Yes.
In this country. And that governor want to contest for presidency, and he thinks he's smart. Not just one, several of them. The one that is even more loud, I don't want to mention names on this TV because it's your TV station, not put you under serious trouble. His workers are complaining, no salaries have been paid. They pay them only by opinion, when it feels like. It's not their right. When that salary is a right, even God says so in the Bible, that a laborer deserves his wages. Is that what is happening? You have to beg to get your salary? You will walk around the clock, but the government himself get his salary as and when it is due. To him, the other man has no life. He has a life to live. Several of the governors in this country today are guilty. And they take salary as last issue, not as first line charge. They will come to TV and tell us one sweet story that are making no sense. In my opinion, I think it is time that the labor movement must rise to challenge these governors and put them in their proper perspective.
Right.
Because today, the school systems are almost grounded. The university is almost going into coma. And then how do you explain that a student who lost a year and a fraction at home? That is a serious loss for their future. And it seems that it's like a political discourse. And people play gamble. I'm not saying that those my colleagues in the university are too clean. But I'm simply saying that what is good for the Ganders. Whatever the issues are, resolve them. If nothing else, our children are now almost grounded. Tomorrow you say they are not employable. They are not employable. How will they be properly educated when the education system is in coma? It's epileptic. Is that how you went to university yourself? A lot of you became what you are today because you went to school. And today the schools are now in coma, and you see it as a political discourse. You pass buck, blame game. How? Okay. How do you want us to continue like this? How will the economy survive when the people who create the wealth are in doldrum? 30,000 naira is a minimum wage of Nigeria. This, of course, you know. 1,000 naira per day is what we are saying I should spend. I have 4 children. For instance. And myself and my wife, 6 of us. 1,000 naira a day. That is transfer money from here to New Benin and back home, and it's finished.
We'll come to that, the wages. We'll come to the wages. Now, you just hold on. We'll get to that aspect. Now, why they were celebrating Workers' Day in a country in Africa, the workers got so pissed. They ran into the rally and disrupted everything when the president of a particular country in Africa wanted to give a speech on the Workers' Day. Has it got into that in Africa? You're like, forget about today. We have nothing to celebrate. Enough is enough of this mediocrity. Everybody go home. That was what they did.
You find out that, to me, such situation require drastic action. You see, enough of hypocrisy. What the workers were saying, enough of this hypocrisy. We are tired of this hypocrisy. That's what they were saying. The workers were saying, look, you have nothing new to tell us. We do not see any hope in the horizon. When a man is hopeless, when a man do not have something to look forward to live for, you do not expect him not to behave in that manner which those workers behaved on Workers' Day. I'm sure you are careful not to mention the name of the country. Yeah. But I want to say that it was right, as far as I'm concerned.
It was right.
Yeah, you may say, oh, emotions. You may say, oh, in the Gani Fahemi, may his soul rest in peace, once said, in a lawless state, it is unlawful to be lawful. In a lawless state, it is unlawful to be lawful. To me, that was just what happened. Though I may not judge the rightness or the correctness or otherwise of their actions, but what happened is that the president of that country do not have anything to offer the people. Because that was not the first time. It is a trend. It is a trend. Why do you think that people go on protest? You see people coming to a block highway. Will the same man with the same mind leave what he's doing? Decent employment, decent living, to go haywire? No, certainly not. So, to me, that is a lesson. You remember when the Arab Spring started?
Yes.
When somebody chose to take his life, of course, you will say it is wrong for you to take life that does not belong to you, because life comes from the Almighty. But that sent a signal that caused some the narrative in the Arab world, particularly in North Africa. So, such a situation, for me, the president should go back home, go back to his palace, and think of what to do. Because primarily, he is elected to serve the people. That you don't have such behavior, particularly in Nigeria, doesn't mean that Nigeria is better than that country. My dear comrade just alluded to the issue of ASU strike. Why will you allow such a thing to happen? And the way it's going, I'm not a prophet of doom, but I do not see a change coming until this government leaves, because a serious government in an ideal situation, once elections are coming, you begin to do things right. You begin to do things that are pro-masses, pro the people, to let them know, in order to curry their favor and end their votes. If we are moving into 2023 general election, and INEC has released a timetable, and the federal government of Nigeria allow ASU strike to persist, not listening to them, it is very certain and clear that they may not do anything until this government finishes tenure in 2023.
Now, let's hope that will not happen. Okay, let's just keep watching.
Like I said, I'm not a prophet of doom,
but right now, it's like you're predicting doom in that particular educational aspect. Let's just hope and pray that
it happened to Obasanjo 2 years.
Yes, 2 years.
They were at home.
We remember
2 years.
that. We remember that. But that era and this era, they're not the same. They're not the same. I'll come back to you. Comrade, calm down. I'll come back to you. Now, people came out in March to say, look, whatever you are celebrating as Workers' Day is mediocrity. I'm so careful. I don't want to mention the name of the country or the name of the president for good reasons. The workers came out in mass and scattered everything, People are running helter-skelter for safety because the workers are angry about the situation on the ground. Is it about the wages or the mentality of the capitalists in that society?
Now, I'll tell you this, Wilson. Even though I'm not completely in favor of scattering your own group, because that forum was not for the president. That forum was designed for workers to ventilate, to share, to analyze, and to strategize. What they would have done was to ask the president not to come.
Not to come?
Don't come. Stay in your house. We don't need you here. So they will have the opportunity of organizing. And we mobilize. Let him hear the story that this mobilization started from that point. Because what has happened now is that, like, President succeeded in making them getting confusion, and they never sat down to discuss their own strategy. So that time was wasted. And who will get injured? The worker who is also in that place. Because if there's anarchy, President can escape, and you put the worker in serious danger. When they scamper for safety, somebody can step, and then he's on the ground. Maybe he stepped upon, and he dies. What has happened? The president didn't die. It's a worker that dies. So that's why we say injury to one is injury to all. One worker may suffer a fate. The entire workforce is in danger, because that precedent will be late. That's why we said injury to one is injury to all. We don't allow it happen for any reason. No governor, no capitalists have the right to make us lost one of our person. There's none. And if it does happen, that man will be in trouble, in a serious discussion. So for me, I didn't think that that was the best option, even though it was an emotional outburst. But it was supposed to be asking the man, excuse us, because we don't want you here. If that statement was say, we don't want the man here, go, and the man left, I can understand. Not that the entire place will go into a coma and where people will be exposed to almost kill or die. Because they killed us in America during the struggle, even in Nigeria during the struggle, the Abacha era during the struggle, the Nadeko crisis during the struggle. We know all of this. We're not celebrating people killing us. When we remember that experience, we tell ourselves that the struggle will never stop. Because we know that we have a perpetual class struggle. It's not a contestation, we know. So it's not gesticulation. Okay? So for me, that is one of my take on that. My second take is that as we speak, the current circumstances surrounding the entire African continent has to do with the Western incursion that has changed the mentality, even though our primary mentality had a monarchical tendency, which further compound the issue of domineering tendencies against the workers. Because monarchical reign, that's what happens. The monarch says it all, and nobody has the right to even say what. Yeah. Democracy is not a monarchical definition. Democracy is not. So when democracy came, it came as a shock to change the narrative. So for me, I think what is on ground is that I have always said, and I agree with several of my friends and colleagues who says, to lament is not the way to go. That we have to face it. I understand that we have a job in our hand to do. We must face it. One of the jobs we have in our hand to do is to change the position of our current country. Because our current country is under siege. Whether we like it or not, it's under siege. It's not a contestation. As far as I'm concerned, it's very glaring. In all spheres, whether you talk about the local, you talk about the international, in all spheres, talk about the economy, talk about the security, talk about social, talk about our academics, in all spheres. So the issue is that the working people of Nigeria, there's a clarion call now that we must wake up. Because we cannot allow people who didn't create wealth come and destroy the wealth we created. We cannot.
All right. Now, from what he rightly said, and you also opine to it that the workforce are the creators of wealth in this continent, in this country, and of course the capitalists are there doing their thing, the government also there doing their thing, while the workers have been trying to make ends meet. He mentioned minimum wage. Now, the problems bedeviling African workers, is it about the income, talking about the wages, or there's something else about it? Because everybody's going crying, money, money, money. Is money the ultimate answer to the cries of an average worker in Africa? Will respond.
Well, let me just mention this.
Yeah.
It is not just the money, it's the bad economy.
Oh, don't hold it. I'll come to you.
Let him respond.
You see,
over to you, yeah.
When you talk about money, sometimes people don't understand it from the labor point of view.
Because let us understand it.
When we ask, let there be, we are looking at a just wage. We are looking at a living wage. And there are so many indices, variables, that will influence what your living wage should be. In an ideal situation, you look at the cost of living index. I'm talking about inflation rate. Yeah. You are looking at the value, of your income. For instance, you may want to ask, what was the cost of a loaf of bread 10 years ago? What is the cost now? What is the cost of transportation between Igosa and New Benin 10 years ago? What is the cost now? These are the things. You look at issue of medical care. Is it accessible? Is it affordable? These are the things you put together. When you now put them together, you now say, what you are paying the worker now, can it take care of these variables? His food, shelter, medical care, transportation, schooling, and all that. When you put these ones, you put them together, and you find out that the worker is worse off. The immediate response will be, please let there be a pay rise. But then, in an economic sense, Pay rise can't solve the problem, because if you continue to increase the pay rise, if you're going to increase it, you may ultimately get 100% increase or 200%, but you won't solve the problem. The basic problem is economic problem.
Economic problem.
Yeah, it's about production. It's about production. It is about distribution. And when we're looking at issue of production, for instance, take Nigeria as an example. Yeah. Issue of power is very essential. Issue of power is very essential to production. In what all the aspects, whether in agriculture, whether it's manufacturing, whatever aspect, even in marketing, in distribution, power is very, very essential. Now you want to ask the question, do Labour always ask government, please look at this aspect of our economy? The question is yes. Issue of petroleum products, I want to narrow it down without giving the big name. Yeah. Like PMS, kerosene and all that, which is very essential. Now, building materials are very, very expensive, for instance, because of cost of diesel. Diesel is expensive. So whatever they do in that sector. So issue of housing. Housing for all, affordable housing for the worker and all that. You cannot achieve it. So workers over time have been able to propose to government, please tackle these issues. Issue of power, issue of energy, American petroleum product and all that. But you see, government will not listen to you. And when government do not listen to you, you do not have any other option than to ask for a pay rise, because all other things are not coming. And again, also, let me say this quickly, that issue of legislation, respecting the law, the rule of law, all right, ease of doing business.
We'll come to that. You just hold on. We'll come to that, because right now it's all about the Workers' Day in Africa, commemorating workers. We want to take a break. When we return, we're going to expatiate on this discussion. Don't go away. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is Africa Discourse. We are taking a look at African workers. Yes, the welfare in Africa, all in the name, all in a bid rather, to commemorate the workforce in Africa. And of course, I have two comrades with me in the studio, Comrade Kadri and of course Comrade Aligbe. They are sharing their thoughts and opinions about this particular issue. Now, I'll come back to you, comrade. Just, now he was trying to talk about various aspects of the society where the government or the capitalists should look into. It's not all about money, money, money. But right now, in most African countries, it is all about the money. Comrade, take it up from there.
I tell you, Wilson, the truth is that it's not all about the money. If the economy is stable, the money will have a classical value. Yeah. When I entered government job in 1979, I can tell you that our salary was less than 200 naira.
Less than 200 naira?
Yes, I'll tell you for free. And I can buy a shirt for 2 naira 50 kobo, a package shirt. A shirt, 250, 2 naira 50 kobo, not 250, 2 naira 50 kobo. Wow. A bag of cement in 1980-81 was 4 naira 50 kobo. 4 naira 50, I'm not saying 4 naira 50.
4 naira 50 kobo.
50 kobo. I'm not saying 14 naira, I say 4 naira. 4 naira, 1, 2, 3, 4 naira, 50 kobo, a bag of cement.
Wow.
Now, I can also tell you for free that thing we earn can take us, we still have something to save. We will do contribution, yes, that they will give you. My first set of chairs, I do them for 600 naira. Wilson, I'm telling you life experience. I'm not telling you I was told. I say me.
600 naira.
600 naira. Wow. The shoe I bought for 65 naira, yeah, created a lot of people for me at home. Italian shoe, 65 naira. My late uncle was asking me, why do, oh God, go and buy shoe? This shoe is expensive. How much? I was even scared to tell him. Because it was raising a lot of dust. I mean 65 naira. I'm not saying 650 naira. Now we're looking at 60,000 for a pair of shoes. Wilson, I'm telling you this in reality. I'm not saying it's a film show. It's not a pantomime. It's real. Now, if we had that kind of situation, will a worker ask for millions of naira that will ruin his life? Wilson, you are a worker, you get a loan facility to buy a car. As a fresh graduate, as you enter the office, after a while, you are due for loan. You're not surprised to say, come and take your loan. You buy a new car. Today, Wilson, who buys a new car? The cars you see in town without the number, they are all Belgian cars. You call them Belgian. They are all second-hand cars. Yes. And when you buy second-hand car, you go and celebrate and buy drink people for buy second-hand car. They don't even know when the car came. Wilson, this is the situation. The entire African continent suffers a fate because production is not our drive. We are so driven by consumption that we forget production capacity. Manufacturing is the key to go. What makes Americans stand? What gives Japanese the edge? Chinese the edge? Is because they are on production. But here in Africa, we are on consumption without producing. How will our economy survive? The risk is so serious. Any country that is import-oriented cannot stand, cannot be stable. Our economy is import-oriented. We've seen you go to town and see when they bring junks from outside. They open, the people are struggling to buy dirty clothing in the streets. They go down and start picking. You ask the person, say, nah, this is a nice strong pass. Can a second-hand good be strong past? Can meat? A man go and buy something that somebody else had condemned somewhere else. And the man comes here and is celebrating. He buys a second-hand car, he's clapping for himself. He's hero. This is the issue. What happened to our production capacity? We have them. What happened? Those days, Renault assembled here, Peugeot assembled here, they're all gone. IBM assembled here, they're all gone. So if our internal economy was strong, Wilson, this story of increased salary will not even have risen, because increased salary without commensurate production is creating inflation. And it makes our salary worthless. How do you imagine that now a dollar is 500 and something naira for a dollar, going towards 600 naira? And the worker earns salary. Those days, grade level 12 officer or 600 naira. Grade level 12, 600 naira. Quote me. And that was a middle class personality.
All right.
And he lives well.
Yes.
He hopes and buy a car and build a house. His children goes to school, he pay their bills. Today, where are we? You are earning thousands, yet you can't even sponsor your children. You can't even survive in one. So the average worker is like he's the guinea pig that the average man on top uses to celebrate his big madness.
Okay.
So for me, if you ask me, the workers ordinarily wouldn't have been asking for salary increase if the economy was responsible enough to cover the gaps.
Okay. If the economy was responsible enough to cover the gaps, because the example is just dishing out right now is sending shivers down my spine, 250 kobo, 2 naira. Okay, fine. Right now we are in this situation. African workers, 80% of them, they are not happy. They complain of the wage, complain of economy, complain about so many other things. How do you think this can be salvaged?
Well, it takes two to tango, and it will come more from the part of the workers and also on the part of government or employer. But to me, the struggle should come more from the part of the workers.
Of the workers?
Yes, because they are the one. Nobody gives you anything good freely like that except God, without attaching conditions. The government in Africa, African governments, in a way, are neo-colonialists. They act and behave as dictated by the imperialists. IMF and all that. So in a way, the workers on their own must organize, they must mobilize and ensure that those things that are dear to them, that will make the average worker happy, are aggressively, I use the word aggressively, pursued. And it required a patriotic and selfless leadership to drive that on the part of the workers. Then African governments must know and realize that whatever the Western world, World Bank, IMF, whatever they are selling to you, all you need to do is to take it, look at it, throw away the bad, take the goodness in it, domesticate it for the good of your people. And that is what our leadership on the part of government, what we are lacking right now. Because everything, like we normally put it in our local parlance, Oyibo no dey do business when gain not there. For every grant that is given, for every loan that is given, there are terms and conditions. And those terms and conditions are not all usually favorable to the African people. And that is why we require leaders that are patriotic. We require leaders that are nationalistic. That's why we require leaders who will be able to say of a truth, let me do things that are right, things that will be of benefit for the greater good of my people. And it is simple, the way we should go. Simple in the sense that we must go back to the drawing board. The workers must go back to the drawing board and ensure, and these things, they are in two fronts. Politically, they must be active, politically. And I think over time, after independence, the political aspect of the labor force, or the labor movement, was somehow blighted. And I think we should go back and have a rethink. Because if you are able, politically, if you are able to have the right leaders in place, I am sure you will get it right from there. But if it is these money bags, you allow them to have their way, they are there in government, I tell you, we may not be able to realize the dreams of the average worker in Africa.
All right. All right. Now you heard him, a preferred solution, and he mentioned something I really want to delve into. It almost escaped my mind, but he just brought it, politically speaking. He said somewhere along the line, political structure, so to speak, of the workforce, talking about the leadership was blighted. I mean, you get to hear about this faction fighting against this faction, that faction pursuing one course that is in tandem with the other faction still in the labor force. Don't you think that this also contributed to the plight of workers in Africa?
Well, let me tell you, for every group that want to dominate, must create a divide in the opposing group.
Okay.
It's a tactics. It's not strange.
Whose tactics?
Except you are not within the concept of power play.
Okay.
There's a power play here. I'm a realist. There's a power play here. And the power play is that every government wants to ensure that they dominate and they hold down. So they will do everything to undermine the unity of the opposing power, so as to ensure that they never come together to fight. Because if they stand together, they'll make a difference. Let me give you a story. When the first strike was to come in 1945, by 1940, 41, 42, there were issues that were planning. The white man believed that it was not possible. That the whites it's not possible. So what they did was to say, no, this one can't organize, forget them. So they didn't see it coming. So when the strike came and hit them, there was a confusion. You mean it's possible? So immediately after the strike, they now went into the workforce to balkanize them. That's when you now started hearing the Igbo labor group, Yoruba labor group, the this labor group started creating new names. Whereas Before then, it was one united body. Everybody was running on the same pedestal, the same frame. So it is important that the labor movement and the workers, you also understand that in spite of what they see, their unity is their strength. And this guy knows it. So when they decide to enter the system and create molds who will begin to divide the system for different primordial sentiments, some will create impression, it's the turn of the Igbos, turn of the Yorubas, turn of the Hausas, it's our turn. It's crazy. Even in our national politics we talk about today, that's what is back, that's destroying our system. Our universities are almost in coma because the issue of our tribe man must become the VC. It has not become. That is trouble. The issue in academics is not about your tribe, nor your religion. It's about your intellectual content and capacity to drive the process. Now, that is undermined when we introduce this primary sentiment of religion, tribe, and creed definitions. So, in this discussion we are talking about today, this same story is what happens when you find out that there's a very strong force driving the process. So they always want to see how we can, that force that is driving us, let us see how we can go there and balkanize it. So, and what they do, they create persons among you who will do that, who want leadership, who want to drive, and they make him and they empower him to drive the process. So in that drive, they weaken the capacity of this opposing factor. And of course, the labor movement also suffered the fate. But the good news is that labor movement might be shaken, but they cannot extinct it.
Might be shaking.
So, yes. But I am saying in this discussion today that the labor movement must go back and sit down. Because why? All the African countries are under siege. And the workers cannot allow the wealth they create to be destroyed by those who did not know how the wealth were created. Because we create wealth. This is not a contestation. But time is now that we must decide who gets what, when, and how. And that is why labor movement must start. And that's why we are saying the political drive of the labor movement must come back to life. Because that was where Nigeria got emancipation. If there was no such movement, like the West African Student Union, like, of course, the labor movement, there wouldn't have been Nigeria today in terms of independence.
All right.
Think about it. What frightened the white man strongly? The labor movement that was driving the force.
Okay.
Michael Modu, God bless his soul, and God bless his soul wherever he is. What error he committed, God forgive him, and God bless him with the good deed he did. He gave us a direction that we are today driving.
All right. Now, talking about the direction that we are today driving our labor force, you talked about politics.
Yes.
Do you think that politics plays a very, very strong role for the workforce to have their say, but they even have their way in the scheme of things?
Of course, politics is very, very important and key. And that is why we think that it will be a starting point. When we talk about politics, we are talking about governance. We are talking about election. We are talking about good governance. We are talking about putting people in place who will work for the good of the majority of the people. And it's by election. We are for democracy. And if democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the good of the people, not just for the people, for the good of the people, then labor must take its stand. Yes, we did that pre-independence. Labor played a prominent role in ensuring the independence of this country and many other African countries. And we can't go back now. We cannot. We must wake up from the slumber because things are not going the way they should be. The founding father, the vision of the founding fathers for African nations is no longer there. So, and that vision we must not allow it to die, because if we do, we will continue to remain at the receiving end. So politically, the labor force must be active politically. I will personally advocate that, of course, we already have political parties. Go and register in your party. Register in that political party of your choice. Be active. Because if you don't, again, I am not a prophet of doom, like I said earlier, but I want to paint a scenario before you.
All right.
The scenario is that in Nigeria, for instance, we have two dominant parties, two dominant political parties. And these two dominant parties, if they go the way they are now, and they allow the money bags among them to choose the delegates, and of course, who are the delegates? The delegates are people who are members of the party who will now come, and whether they use by election or by consensus, if the two prominent candidates in these two dominant parties emerge as presidential candidates, I tell you, we will be in serious trouble. Because we will be left with the option. All this, go and get your PVC, go and get your PVC. Will be nonsense, because the two candidates they are going to give to us will be those candidates that you will vote for. The other parties are not dominant. They are not even known. And that is why it is not too late. It is not too late for organized labor. And of course, the civil society.
All right.
To form that political union and drive the process and ensure that those who are elected into the various offices are good people that will work for the good of the people. That is number one. Apart from the political aspect, the ease of doing business, the ease of doing business, where there will be no corruption, where there will be no delay. You see, in Nigeria, we have executive order this, executive order that, ease of doing business order. But these orders, are they working? If they are working, why are those companies relocating from Nigeria, for instance?
But that's where labor should come into play.
Of course, ours is to advocate. Ours is to speak truth to power, which we have been doing. But I am saying right now that it appears it's not working. And for it to work, you must take the bull by the horn. And taking the bull by the horn means that you must be politically active and involved in governance.
All right.
That is the way out.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. About to call it a wrap on this show. You have 2 minutes each to address the workforce and, of course, the leadership of the workforce. You take the first shot.
Well, I want to thank ITV for giving opportunity to speak to our people. The Nigerian workers, I want to congratulate you for a wonderful May Day. In spite of all the challenges we have passed through, we are here. By the grace of God, we shall overcome. Now, I must tell you this, that the workers of Nigeria must no longer sit back and watch. We no longer be spectators. If we create the wealth, the time is now for us to decide who gets what, when, and how. And two things come to mind. We must play a prominent role in our political divide, definition, because that is what drives the economy. If you get the politics right, then the economy will fight in. If you get it wrong, the economy will be in shambles. So today, I want to call the Nigerian workers, let's use this season, this particular season, spirit of this season, to go back and regalvanize. Not only the Nigerian workers, the entire African workers should come back, sit back, and regalvanize. Because the world is asking questions, and we must give them answer. And the answer is that this story must change.
All right.
Everywhere you go is cool.
Thank you.
Cool everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So the story must change.
Yes.
Comrade Joe, 2 minutes.
Yes. I also want to quickly congratulate the workers for an opportunity to celebrate. Like we said at the beginning, we have every reason to celebrate. Because when you have life, it shows that you should have hope. And also, it should provide us the opportunity to examine where we are, where we have been before now, and where we want to be. It should be a soul-searching time for us. And I do believe that if we put our hearts together and ensure that we get it right politically, and we ensure that our members also, they continue to put in their best, as we always do, whatever we are doing, and of course, we will achieve that dream, that desire. But also, I want to use the opportunity to appeal to governments and employers of labor. It takes two to tango. The Nigeria belongs to us, and indeed Africa belongs to us. It is not just for one's part. The ruling class and the governed must be able to find a meeting point. If we find a meeting point and we know it's for the common good, it will be a good place for all of us. So my appeal is that the rulers or the employers or government should please come down from their high stakes to meet the worker where we are, so that we can find a common ground. I'm sure if we do that, it will be a better place for all of us. Because if they don't do it rightly, they too will not sleep.
Interesting. If they do it rightly, they too will not sleep. Everybody really needs some peace and quiet. You've heard from both of them, both comrades, Bashir Kadri and of course Comrade Joe Aligbe speaking their minds on this particular discussion, talking about workers' welfare in Africa, commemoration of Workers' Day. As a worker, how are you faring? The second thing striking, for you to turn the economy of a particular country in Africa or elsewhere in the world, you have to be politically inclined. Where is your PVC? Are you in a political party? Where is the Labour Party we used to know way back? Are they still on? What is going on to create that balance? Give and take. Balance should be created between the employers and, of course, the employees, be it public sector, private sector, or maybe public-private partnership. The workers' welfare must be paramount. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming into the show.
Let me thank Edo State government for increasing workers' salary to 40,000 minimum wage.
Oh, really? Okay, 40,000.
It's phenomenal because
this will set a new. This will set.
Our time is up.
Thank you.
They've heard.
Yes.
They've heard. Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Governor. 40,000
Yes.
up from 30. Now make added 10 to it. 40,000. Kudos to the governor of Edo State. He's the first to do it in Nigeria. Hope others will just follow suit.
Yes.
Well, by God's grace, tomorrow, see you on International Forum. To our Muslim brothers and sisters out there, happy Eid al-Fitr. Bye for now.